Yeah, they decided they could ship all four of them on one trip. So instead of paying $4,000, I'll be paying $2,500 to have two more of my bikes and two more of my vehicles here. Um, as much as I would like to have them all, I just don't really have a place to store them all. And then I'd have to go through the same process again when I either go back to Southern California or to Las Vegas. Um, Winter approaching rapidly, and I just don't want to be in Northern California for the winter. I obviously will be here probably for the first month or two of it, but I don't want to spend the entire winter here when I could spend it in, Los Angeles where it's still 70 or 80 degrees, and Vegas where it's still warm and nice. And being that I own a home in both places, why the hell wouldn't I? But I don't want to go through shipping, you know, 5 cars and 3 bikes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I decided on 2 and 2. So I'll have my Tahoe here. I'll have a couple of my cars here and a couple more of my bikes here. Which means I'll end up with 3 cars here and 3 bikes here, which will probably mean that with the Tahoe I can tow 2 of my bikes home with me, which means I'll have to ship 3 cars and 1 bike, which in further negotiations with them at a later date will probably run me about $1,000 more than it will to ship 2 cars and 2 bikes, which is fine, whatever. I mean, it's money's just, it's, it comes and it goes. I wanted to do that just because I haven't really been able to drive, a lot of my vehicles since I left Los Angeles. Like I said here, that, every law enforcement officer knows me. And even if I'm not breaking the law, they tend to pull me over and, they play that game of like, hey, just want to see how you were doing, by the way, da 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 da. Ends up, I always end up having, getting searched because of my felony convictions and because I usually have firearms on me. That would be an issue. The fact that I don't have a valid driver's license currently would be an issue. And at the end of the day, I would probably, if not get at least a very, very hefty fine, probably go to jail again, which isn't my fucking favorite place to be. So, I have driven the Tahoe since I've been here, but I kind of get away with that because it's really, there's no real, I'm sorry for the darkness right now. Just getting home from my walk, and my house is kind of in the woods. I'm going to go back to the porch in just a second, but the dog has to pee and everything, so. Anyway, I kind of get away with driving the Tahoe because there's no real cosmetic modifications to it. Like most of the upgrades are engine and interior, which you can't really see from the outside. And oddly enough, I don't know if most people are aware of this, but like California state law is so strange. You can have your windows tinted on an SUV more than you can a car. I don't know the exact percentage, but like my windows are basically tinted enough to where I can drive the Tahoe short distances, like if I'm just going to, for instance, buy a watch or get gas or go grocery shopping or whatever, I can generally kind of get away with that. It scares me, but I do it. And when I do, it's pretty much the only times that I'm ever really unarmed, which I'm really not unarmed. I'll have like at least a knife, or I like to carry a big ass master lock tied to a red bandana, because that's just not illegal whatsoever. It's kind of like carrying around a ball peen hammer. You just can, or a Maglite or something like that. Not to mention, I've been in quite a few street fights in my life. We've talked about this before. I've lost quite a few street fights, and I've won quite a few street fights. A lot of them having to do with working as a debt collector for years, and a lot of them having to do with affiliations with certain groups and such. So I'm not a slouch when it comes to a fist fight. I don't seek them out. I don't want to have fights. I don't necessarily even condone fighting, but I also don't want to get caught with my fucking pants down. So anyway, that being said, there's usually some type of weapon that is not illegal with me if I'm driving, in which case I would just get a ticket for driving on a restricted license, which is just a fine, and I could pay that. I wouldn't go to jail again. So yeah, I thought that I would be able to make some more videos today than I did, but like I said, I ended up on the phone with this transport company for quite a while. Actually, a couple of transport companies trying to find the best deal, but also the safest transport company, because I don't own cheap vehicles or cheap Harleys. I don't want them to get damaged, so you get what you pay for. Obviously I talked to one dude that was like, yeah, I'll ship you fucking 2 of your cars and a Harley for $1,000. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, and I bet they'd come with fucking scratches and all kinds of shit all over them from your tie straps and this and that and the other. Anyway, the most reputable company I found, I ended up working out the deal for $2,500, which I feel is a pretty fair deal. They guarantee their work, basically saying that if they damage your car, they'll pay for it, and this, that, and the other. And so $2,500, a couple of my cars, one of my bikes, or a couple of my bikes, one of my cars, whatever it is I decided on, I can't even fucking remember, because I just wanted really to go to the goddamn jewelry store, get the watch. But that's because I have an instant gratification thing. I didn't end up getting to do that, but there's always tomorrow. Let's see. What else did I want to touch on with you guys real quickly on the dog walk story? I told a couple of funny stories today, and I did make a video expressing some slight anger with Joe Rogan. Now, Joe Rogan, as you all know, has a very popular podcast show. He's also one of the announcers for the UFC, and I am a Joe Rogan fan. It's not as if I fucking hate Joe Rogan or anything like that. It was just a matter of I just did not like one of the podcasts that he did where he was talking about my recently departed friend, Rich Piana. And I basically, in that video, expressed my anger for what he had said, but I also let him know that I'm still a fan of his. I don't dislike him. I would just like for him to retort some of the claims that he made during the podcast. Now, I don't know if he made them prior to having the correct information or whatever, but it basically, long story short, came down to him saying something about, a steroid overdose and a painkiller overdose and this and that. when in fact Rich died of a heart attack. Now, a lot of you are saying, well, that's kind of fucking petty of you, but it's really not, because Rich is no longer here to defend himself, so his friends are here to defend his name. And I just wanted to, I don't even know if Joe will see the video or hear about the video or anything like that. It's just a matter of, I wanted to get it off my chest because I'm getting really tired of seeing these videos about Rich. People talking about, oh, he had 20 bottles of steroids in his house, he's a fucking drug dealer, this, that, and the other. Well, like, dude, if any of you are bodybuilders, you know, like I know, 20 bottles of steroids is not a lot. It's basically one cycle of steroids, because 4 of those bottles might be test, 4 might be trend, 4 might be deca, 4 might be, you know, whatever. Anyway, it just is not an amount that would be considered a drug dealer's amount of steroids, whereas a drug dealer's amount of, like, considering, you know, there's people out there that have thousands of bottles of steroids, and that is different than 20. There's also been this, you know, story about this white powder that was found. Chanel basically stated that it was pre-workout that he was snorting. I honestly have no idea what that was. I've never known Rich to do coke or anything like that. I know that every once in a while he liked to take an Adderall in lieu of pre-workout, just for the sake of his body not getting so used to one thing and this and that. Now, I really don't have anything to say on that because I don't know what it was. All I really can say is I've never known Rich to do coke or any other sort of white powder, so it probably was pre-workout and had been spilled maybe on the counter, whatever, I don't know. The situation went, you know, as you know, Chanel was giving Rich a haircut. He passed out. She tried to catch him. Rich being 290, she was unable to catch him. He hit his head. Took the paramedics 10 minutes to get there. By the time they got there, when he was taken to the hospital, he had to be put in a medically induced coma, which they generally do by giving you phenobarbital. And they do that so that your body just kind of remains in a state of, God, I don't even know the right word. It just kind of is suspended animation, I guess. Anyway, he ended up dying of a heart attack while in the medically induced coma, and Rich has since passed on. I don't like seeing so many people trying to cash in on Rich's death by making these videos and making claims that just are flat out untrue about a dude who never had a bad word to say about anybody and really tried to help people in the ways that he knew how, which was trying to teach people how to use steroids properly, this, that, and the other. And I know a lot of his other friends are defending him in other ways. Due to the fact that I'm not in Southern California or Florida, my only outlet is doing this. So, when it's just some fucking lame no-dick, I'm obviously not going to make a retaliation video. But Joe Rogan is a pretty well-known character, and I felt that maybe he might, you know, owe Rich a little bit of an apology for making statements that were untrue. Anyway, I'm going to go in and have my 6th meal of the day. I know that this wasn't necessarily the best dog walk story, but that was my day today. And due to the fact that I'm vlogging on my days, I'm going to go in, eat my 6th meal. In a couple hours, I'm going to train. Still training in my home gym. At that point, I will eat again and probably go to bed about 10 or 11. And I will make another video before then. And I will try to come up with something way more interesting for you. Until then, yeah.